Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I bring to you another interview here today, and I'm very excited to welcome you, my guest. He is New Japan Pro Wrestling's very own Bad Dude Tito. Tito, what's up?
What's up, guys? How's everything? How are you doing?
I'm doing so good. And let me tell you, the second I hopped onto the stream and I saw you repping all the LA gear, I was like, hell yeah. It's not often that I get people that, are born and raised in LA here on the show.
That's me, born and raised here. Everyone's always surprised because everyone's transplant here in LA, but not me. Born and raised here. Dodgers fan, Angels fan, Rams fan, big Laker fan. So I love it all.
Man, that's so awesome. And it's funny because it's true though. A lot of people that I meet, like especially in the entertainment world, I'm like thinking you would think that everybody's from LA, right? And then you meet people and they're like, "Oh, I'm from Boston, I'm from Washington, I'm from Texas." And you're like, "Where are all the LA people?" And all the LA people are kind of like there's not that many that I've met at least like in the actual entertainment world.
Right. Yeah. And now they're starting to leave. Like all the originals are like Vegas, they're starting to go to Arizona. So there's not many of us left.
I know, but you know what? We're going to stay here. We're not going to leave. We're going to pay the high rent prices. We're going to stick it out.
I'm used to it now. The high rent, I'm used to traffic. It don't bother me. I grew up with it. So
Right, right. I feel like the thing that I say, it's almost like the tax you pay, right? Like it's you get all of these perks, all of these great things living in California, but yeah, you got to stay an extra, 40 minutes in traffic when you didn't really need to, but I feel like it's worth it.
I mean, as long as you plan your day correct, you won't hit much traffic.
That's true. That's very true.
Have to plan your day around the traffic. So
Yeah.
my whole life, so it's not a big deal to me.
I get it, man. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into all of the wrestling talk because I feel like so you and I have kind of known each other now for a couple of years. I think we met somewhere around maybe 2017ish. I don't know, somewhere around there. And it was kind of like when I first started, I saw you like making the rounds in the indies, and you had already been making the rounds for a while. And then since then, throughout the years, I've just seen you kind of continue on, keep exploding, and next thing you know, you're in New Japan Pro Wrestling. But I kind of want to rewind it all the way back and ask you, how does a kid from Whittier, go from, I mean, it's like I know the area. My mom lives in Whittier. How do you go from a kid in Whittier to, hey, now I'm a wrestler in New Japan Pro Wrestling? Walk us through that.
So, always been a fan of professional wrestling since I was a little kid. Like some of my earliest memories are like watching wrestling with my brother and my dad, and then of course getting crazy and wrestling on the couches and stuff. So when I got old enough and figured out like, oh, I could probably do this, I could give this a chance. I just had to find the wrestling school, right? So I found a wrestling school, trained my ass off. I pretty much basically lived there. And then from there, you just start getting shows, start very low at these small indie shows, work your way up to main event level on these indie shows, and wrestle your ass off, train your ass off, and hope for big opportunities. And the right person saw me at the right time. They asked me to come to New Japan, and I was here for it. I was ready. You don't have to get ready if you stay ready. And I try to stay ready as best as possible.
That is so cool. And I feel like it always happens like that, right? Like I feel like you always have, because the journey from being an independent wrestler to, get where you're at the level of, New Japan or WWE or AEW, it is a very hard journey. And there's so many guys out there trying to make it. And you got to have, double, triple lives because you're doing all of these additional jobs. But I do want to compliment you because I remember even a while back, I went with a friend to a show, and me and my friend were watching the show, and you were on it. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but all I remember is that you were on it. And my friend and I, the thing that we were saying was, you know what? This guy's different. He has like a different kind of energy, a different vibe. Like he's so different from all of the other guys that you're seeing here. And I feel like even though, like even when you were just, making your way up to the top, you always sort of stood out. And it's now also not just, the work and hard, like the hard work, but it's also making sure the right person sees you and getting the right yeses at the right moment. So when you were making all of those, when you were working the indie scene, tell us what that's like, because I don't know how if people realize how difficult it is, especially back when you started.
Yeah, it's extremely hard. I kind of equate it to like maybe like a struggling artist. or like maybe if you're like in a band but you also have this gig as a bartender, like you definitely have to wear two different hats because you can't really make it on the indies at that level, but you also have to, be willing to try really hard and pursue your dreams and give it 100%. It's incredibly hard to make it on the indies, and especially on the west coast. Like we're almost on our own little island out here. The goal for me was to just make a name for myself, try to break through like that level of indie into like a top indie or a bigger indie, and just make a name for myself and make sure, when someone came calling, I was ready. Make sure like if the right person was in the arena, like they saw me. And I'm always trying to stand out and do things a little different. I can't do backflips. I can't do all these cool high spots. So I stand out in different ways with aggression. I stand out with just physicality. My style is a little different. I kind of, like a hard nose, hard head style. I'm just coming full force. So I try to make that stand out opposed to like maybe like flips and high spots and all the pretty cool stuff.
I like it though. You need to have different elements in wrestling, right? You need to have all of these different characters play with these other ones, and it's really cool. So, Tito, I do want to ask you, with the old jobs like back in the day, what were your shoot jobs? What was it that you were working?
I've had so many shit jobs, man. I was a bouncer a lot. I did a lot of bouncing. I did a lot of private security. At one point, I was putting up garage doors, which is like extremely hard, especially during the summer when it's hot. You're stuck inside the garage. You're putting these garage doors up. Oh man, all kinds of stuff. Worked like retail, like just random stuff, all while chasing the dream,
It was worth it though, I'm sure.
100% worth.
So I know there's a bunch of different indies out here in LA. There's your big ones, your top ones, right? But then there's a bunch of other ones that you probably wouldn't even remember the name. I don't know. There's all these random ones out here, right? With that being said, what's been your weirdest or most strangest experience that you've ever had in any of these like indie companies, or just where you're like, I'm never returning to this promotion ever again?
Uh, Ooh, shoot. You know what? I recently worked for Circle Six, and it was at this place called the Poor Kids Mansion, and it's like a punk rock show. They have punk bands, they have metal bands, but it's in like a backyard. And I didn't know what to expect. I was like, Poor Kids Mansion, what's that? I looked it up, and I was like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. So I showed up, and they're putting the ring in the backyard, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm wrestling in a backyard. I'm a backyard wrestler now. Like, main event in Cork and Hall. Now I'm here. And then we had the show, and it was awesome. It was phenomenal. All the punk rock kids came out, all the metalheads came out. The vibe there was amazing. So I never want to like judge a book by its cover, but like after that, I had a blast. I hope to go back to Circle Six because it was amazing. I had the time of my life. They had like after the show, they had a metal band, and they were really good too. And people just kept coming in. There was a lot of people there. It was amazing. So at first, I would say it was kind of cringe, but then once I saw what was going on, I was like, oh, I'm with this. This is my scene right here.
You're like, I'm supposed to be taking steps forward, not taking steps back.
Thought it was like a great show. I was like, oh, this is phenomenal. I want to come back. This is amazing. That's right up my alley. As a teenager and even now, like I'm still into punk rock music. I was big like metalhead and punk head. So like I fit right into that scene. I loved it a lot.
So wait, are these guys like wrestling fans, or are they just like music fans that are at this cool wrestling event, or are they both of them?
Yeah, both. It was like they're there for the music, they're there for the wrestling. Maybe these people who were there for the music are now wrestling fans. So like it kind of just like merged. It was like a good marriage of both. It was amazing. And that
Wow.
it was like it was like I mean I was wrestling at a punk show, but like it felt like that. It felt the energy there was incredible. It was awesome.
That is so cool. And that's the thing is that I feel like lately we've only started to see the LA independent scene kind of get back on track because for a while there, I felt like really, it clearly with COVID, it pretty much stopped everywhere, right? But even after COVID, it really was, I feel, only GCW that was kind of like the bringing back life into independent wrestling here in Los Angeles. And then also PCW Ultra as well, but they just didn't run as much as GCW. PWG runs a lot more sporadically, as we know. And then everything else was kind of just you either knew about it or you didn't. So I did kind of feel like the wrestling scene in LA, it pretty much just was whenever GCW was in town. How have you been feeling about, the evolution of the LA independent scene?
COVID really hit the indie scene out here in SoCal pretty hard. A lot of companies didn't come back after that. And then the companies that were coming into town were like really bigger indie names. So that it's been really hard for smaller indie guys to get on those. Even for me, it's been really difficult to get on these bigger shows, and I'm kind of an established wrestler. So there's a bunch of little indies that are still coming around. I think the scene's going to start to pick back up. I go to these smaller shows and I see they have a really good crowd. They're really into it, and word of mouth is really big. So I think the scene's going to pick back up really soon. There's a ton of talented guys out here, really, really good. So I don't really see it. I don't really see it being held back at all. I think it's going to blow up again because we got a good scene out here. We got a lot of good wrestlers. This area is like filled with talent. They just need to break out and they need eyes on them.
Right, because I feel like there isn't that many guys that I know of that are legitimate guys that trained in Los Angeles, that made the rounds here in Los Angeles, and are now in these top promotions. And so it's very, very scarce when you think of those names, right? And you're one of them because that's where this is where you got started. This is where you started doing your training and where you took off. And that's the thing where I'm like, I've done like I've been going to the shows and I'm looking at it. I'm like, man, everybody here is from someplace else. Like, where is the LA representation?
Right. Yeah, it's really hard to get on these bigger shows. They don't want to use local guys, and when they do, it's maybe like one or two. So if you really want to see some up and coming indie out like local indie guys, you got to go to these smaller shows, and they put on a hell of a show. Hell of a show. Like I work for Rival Pro Wrestling. Their whole roster is pretty much LA guys, and they have one of the best shows in LA. So you got to like really dive into it, really look into it. Santino Brothers uses nothing but Santino trainees and guys who have just graduated, and those are all LA-based guys. That's another really great show. So if you want to see some really good local guys, you got to really dive into it, and then word of mouth is huge. You got to tell your friends, and those friends tell two friends, and so on and so on and so on, and then we could just blow the scene up and blow these local guys up too, and then everyone could be a star.
You know what I like? When I see a random flyer and I'm like, oh shoot, they're bringing in this guy. Holy cow, what show is this? And I pull it up and I'm like, oh, some random promotion I've never heard of in this random building I've never heard of somewhere in freaking East Los Angeles. And then you pop into the show and it could either be really great or you're sitting there going, what the hell did I just pay like 25 bucks for?
I also like really bad wrestling, but like for a whole nother reason. So
I think it's different. Like when you're coming from like a wrestler's perspective, you're like, oh, that guy sucks, right? But when you're a fan and you're like, I paid for this.
I could be entertained with the best wrestling in the world. Or I could be entertained with like the worst. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I like wrestling. So
That's awesome. So let's get into New Japan because this has really been your breakout. The place where you've really gotten to show a whole other side of you, let people know who Bad Dude Tito is, and you've gotten a lot of really cool experiences with New Japan. Tell us how you got on board with the promotion and how everything has been going so far.
So basically, I was just sitting around the house. I was contemplating retirement because things weren't going great wrestling. And then I got a text saying like, "Hey, are you available for this date? Would you like to come work for New Japan Strong?" And I was like, yeah, of course. Like that's been my dream to work for New Japan my whole life. And so I was like, right away before like just start texting, boom, boom, yeah, I'm there. Just let me know what I gotta do, blah, blah, blah. They're like, all right, cool. Here's the date, show up, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, cool. And I was like, just thinking to myself, if this is a great opportunity, if I work my ass off, I have some really good matches, maybe in a year, maybe in a year and a half, I could go to Japan and like wrestle out there. So that was like the goal. And then about 5 months later, I was in Japan wrestling. So I was like, holy shit, I did this in half the time I thought I was going to do it. This is amazing. Like, what is my life? Like 5 months ago, I was on my couch contemplating retirement. And now I'm in Japan, wrestling all over Japan. It was amazing.
So tell us, what was Japan like?
A dream come true, basically. I loved it. Like everyone's so nice. The food is great. There's so much things to see. You could just literally walk around Tokyo, get lost, and have the time of your life. Just go exploring. I did a lot of that, like just walking around with no destination in mind. Just go get lost and figure it out yourself. It was amazing. It really was a dream come true.
How different is it wrestling in some place like Japan and then wrestling here in the United States?
I think in Japan they appreciate it more, like, and they understand it a little better. They get it, and they want to be entertained. Sometimes out here, like the fans are just pricks. They're kind of assholes, and the fans out here kind of want to be a part of the show, but like you're not. You're a fan. You paid your ticket. I'm the show. So I like wrestling in Japan a lot more. They appreciate it. They like it a lot more, and that like fits my style out there. When I come to America, I kind of have to switch it up a little bit, and also the fans here are kind of assholes. So
So I'm curious on that. I have to touch on that now because you said like the fans out here are kind of pricks, a little bit of assholes. Have you had like really weird or bad like altercations with fans? Like what's been the worst ones?
fans are like, "Oh, you're not a bad dude. I'm a bad dude." I'm like, "Whatever, dude. Like, you don't know what you're talking about." Then they want to get in my face. They want to fight me. They want to meet me outside in the parking lot. Sometimes they're waiting for me when I go to my car. They like to talk their shit and run their mouth when they're behind the barricade, and then if I hop over, they don't want to, run their mouth anymore. So that's what I mean by that. They like to heckle. Like, there's no one heckling in Japan. There's a lot of assholes out here that like to heckle, but guess what? I love talking shit too, and you're not gonna win because I'm a better shit talker, and I could kick your ass. So that's what I mean by the fans being pricks and the fans being assholes.
But what do you do when they're out there waiting for you in your car and you're like, you're just trying to go home? You're like, I'm done with the workday.
They're just showing out for their friends or their girlfriends. They don't want to do anything.
And I'm guessing they're usually drunk, right?
They're always drunk. They just want something to prove and look cool, like, oh, I stood up to Bad Dude Tito, blah, I'm the bad dude, or something stupid.
Yeah, and it's the thing, like, whenever I see these clips of fans that get involved and then all of a sudden they get, they get more than the intention that they thought that they were gonna get, and then they basically go out there and they're like, "Oh, this person did this to me, did that to me," and I'm like, "Why are you getting involved with the show? Like, these are athletes, these are performers, let them do what they're paid to do."
But what are you expecting? You were heckling this guy this whole match, and then you want to get in his face. What do you think was going to happen? Like I had one time a guy throw like a full beer can at me, and I looked at him and said, like, don't do that again. Like, if you do that again, that's a problem. And he's like pretending, oh, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it again. And then he fucking did it again. I'm sorry. Am I allowed to cuss?
Oh, yeah, you're allowed. That's not a problem here.
He threw it at me, and I caught it, and I threw it down, and boom, out. And I was like, I don't want to do that, but like, you can't try to assault me. So,
Exactly.
but all that kind of adds to the legend of the bad dude. So
Well, the next time if somebody there was thinking, "Hey, I'm gonna start heckling Bad Dude Tito," all of a sudden it's like, "Nah, I just saw what that happened to that guy. I can't defend myself. Screw it. I ain't gonna mess with him."
and I don't mind the heckling because I like talking shit to the crowd too. If someone's heckling me, I'll heckle them back, and I could usually get the crowd behind me after that. So like that just made my job easier. But like, don't touch me, don't get in my face, like don't throw things at me. Like that's a different level. Don't do that because I'm not gonna do that to them. I'm not gonna throw something at them. I'm not gonna spit at them or anything. So
It goes for everybody because you see this happen a whole lot, and every now and then you see the viral video and whatnot.
Yep, yep.
Okay, so we were talking about you going to Japan as well, and I want to touch on that a little bit more because there's still some more that I want to get into with that. How would you say your career has changed now, having gone to Japan? And this is and I'm not just saying like how it's changed with like opportunities that you're getting, but also just like your own mentality, your own perspective on wrestling. How has it changed having gone to Japan and then also working New Japan Strong and all of that?
It's definitely helped my confidence in wrestling and in the ring. I always thought I was pretty good, but I wasn't like sure. Like, am I this next level wrestler? Am I able to make it to the top? And after doing my tour in Japan and wrestling basically the best wrestlers in the world out there, I said, yeah, I can hang with these guys. I am at these guys' level. So it helped my confidence like tremendously. And then being able to come back to SoCal with all that confidence just made my matches even better. Because when you're confident, you feel like you could take on the world, and if you feel like that in the ring, you're basically unstoppable. And then all the street cred that comes with New Japan, everybody looks up to you, everybody respects you, because when you wrestle for New Japan, what that really is you're one of the best wrestlers in the world. That's what that is.
I was wondering that. I was wondering if the perspective of you, or whenever a guy goes to some place like New Japan or Japan itself, does it change the perspective that maybe other guys in the locker room have of you as well?
I think so, 100%. Because the best wrestlers in the world wrestle for New Japan. If you're in that locker room, that says something about you. I've always had like the respect of my peers, but after the stuff with New Japan and all the matches I've had there, like it's jumped up like so much. So that goes a long way, because when everyone's respecting you and looking up to you, more opportunities come with that, and I'm here for it. Like, I always knew I was a good wrestler, but now like I know I'm a good wrestler.
It's validation for you. You're like, yes, I freaking made it.
100%. Like, this is something I've always wanted to do, is wrestle for New Japan. When I first started training, a lot of wrestling that I would watch was New Japan. It was like Super J Cup. It was like the G1. It was stuff like that. And these wrestlers putting on these incredible matches, and watching these American guys go to Japan and like battle like the top Japanese guys, and just like the wars they were having. It was like, that's the type of wrestling that I like. And so, like, being able to meet these guys and like share a locker room with them, it's been really incredible.
What is the locker room experience like in Japan? Did you have any interesting moments or conversations or anything like that?
Got to meet some really fantastic guys I've looked up to for a long time. I drank some snake whiskey.
What now? What is that?
I had some snake whiskey in the locker room. It was basically this big bottle of whiskey, and it had some kind of like poisonous snake in there, like a whole snake. And then, so pretty much that alcohol kind of like ferments with the snake, and then like you do a shot and you do another shot, and then not only are you starting to get a little buzz, but you kind of like feel weird because of this venom that's in the snake. I don't know the whole science, but it was definitely more than just drinking. You felt weird, and then you have this like snake looking at you like from this bottle. It was wild. It was cool. It tastes like cough medicine, like syrup or something, like some kind of medicine you would drink when you're sick.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm having a really hard time right now processing this. So the snake is inside the bottle, like with its head and everything.
The whole body, and it's like staring at you. So it's just a alcohol bottle, snake inside. The alcohol's in there, like the snake's fermenting. It's like soaking into this alcohol, and then you drink it, and it's really thick. It's almost like syrup. Uh,
How big is the snake? Did they get you a little snake or a full-blown snake?
the full blown snake.
Jesus.
It was pretty cool. I was like, oh man, I'm definitely trying this. Like this. And it was like my second day there too. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. I'm ready to drink snake whiskey.
I can't even like I'm processing this because I'm like, whose idea? Like who sat around one day and was like, I'm gonna mix a snake with alcohol and make it into a drink. Like who thought of this?
genius, I think, because it was awesome.
Wow, that's crazy, man. I'm gonna like go and Google it later on and see what it looks like and all of that stuff.
Need to try it for sure.
Oh man, that's freaking awesome. Did you have any other cool stories or experiences like that?
There was a ton. I did a lot of sponsored dinners. Like I had some of the best meals of my life out there. One of the sponsors dinners like we went to was like a really expensive restaurant, and they just kept feeding us and feeding us and feeding us. And like I remember looking at Jonah, I'm like, when are they gonna stop feeding us? He's like, they're just gonna keep feeding us until we tell them we're done. And like they wouldn't let our beers get halfway finished. Like as soon as they got close to halfway, they just fill it up again too. So I was like, I don't want to be rude. I'm just gonna keep drinking, but like I can't do this all night. I have a belly full of wagyu beef in my stomach and beer. Like I gotta go back. I gotta sleep at some time. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun out there.
And I'm sure they're thinking like, oh, wrestlers, they're so big, they're gonna eat like, triple times whatever we eat. So for them, it was just like, oh, this is normal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They're like, oh, you guys like steak? You're American, right? And we're like, well, I'm American and he's Aussie, but yeah, we both like steak. They're like, okay, cool. And then the meat just kept coming and coming and coming, and I was there for it. I was eating and eating and having the time of my life, and then I hit a wall, and I was like, oh man, it's still coming. Like there's more plates. I don't know if I but like we did a lot of cool things too. Like we saw like the biggest Buddhist temple in Tokyo. It was huge. That was really remarkable to see. So I really enjoyed that. We went to like the Tokyo tree tower. It was like the highest like building in Tokyo, and you could see like all around Tokyo. It was amazing.
Man, that sounds awesome. I've never been to Japan. I've never been there at all. So I'm just like soaking this all in and being like, it's so cool because you hear of like these experiences when guys go over, like, oh, it's so awesome. And then you're telling me this about like the sponsored dinners and it's snake and alcohol. And I'm like, this is really cool because there are things that you never really thought, hey, this is what the experience is like when you go over there. So that's freaking awesome.
I got to go to Ribera Steakhouse. I got
Oh, that's the famous steakhouse, right?
a jacket, so like I could die a happy man. If I die tomorrow, I'm good. If I have to retire tomorrow too, I'd be like, got my Ribera Steakhouse jacket. I'm good. I'm good to go.
You're like, I did it. Bucket list check.
It's like, oh yeah, because you see all these pictures of all these old wrestlers in Japan with their Ribera Steakhouse jacket in Ribera, and like you're like, that's what I want to do when I go to Japan. Like that's the thing to do. And I got it my first tour, so I was super happy.
That's so cool. I'm so happy for you. It's like the years of hard work, the years of not giving up. You mentioned earlier you were almost going to retire and you kept going, and then it's like you got rewarded. You got to go to Japan, you got to get your Ribera steak and your jacket, and now you have these really great stories to tell, and that is so freaking cool. So I do want to touch on this weekend. You have New Japan has a pretty big show out here at in Long Beach, and that's pretty cool. Like you're out here performing in just a couple of miles away from your hometown of Whittier, and you're going to be in a tag team match. You're going to be teaming up with Zack Saber Jr. First off, incredible. Talk to us about the match coming up this weekend and how you feel about that.
So it's me and Zach. We're wrestling Virus and the Caveman over there from CMLL. Zach is a tremendous wrestler, probably one of the best wrestlers in the world, definitely the best technical wrestler in the world. So teaming up with him is fantastic. I get to learn a lot just by watching him and training with them. And then Virus is a very good technical wrestler too. He's like an old school luchador technician. So I'm like, as a fan, it's going to be fun to see them two go at it. But also, like, I know I'm there to kick some ass. Like,
Hell yeah.
I don't care how technical you are. We'll see how technical you are when my fist comes across your face or when I throw a lariat across your neck. So I'm here. We're here to kick ass. We're TMDK, the mighty don't kneel, and see what happens. I'm looking forward to it. Like people always ask me, like, "Oh, do you scout your opponents?" I'm like, man, they should be scouting me. Like I show up to the ring and I'm gonna whoop some ass. I don't care what they do. Like I'm gonna overwhelm them with what I do. So they need to be wary of me. I don't have to worry about them. I'm 240 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal, man. So Alrighty.
That's so cool. I love that, man. All right. So I do want to ask also because, you got Cavernario in this match and, he's a big star. He's out there killing it and CMLL and all of that. Have you already gone to Mexico at all? Or is that still something that's is it on your bucket list?
It's definitely on the bucket list. I've done some stuff in TJ, like little indies there, but like I definitely would like to get out there because it's like a different style, and I would like to see how my style matches with theirs. The crowd in Mexico is wild too, so I would like to like really amp them up and see what they would do with me because I like to rile that crowd up. So interested to see what they would do there. The last time I was in Mexico, I did a show, and it was a pretty good sized indie show. There's probably about 500 people there, and we were the main event. And by the time we left, we started a riot basically. I had like old lady throwing beer bottles at me, like breaking by me on the floor by my head. Like we couldn't get to the locker room because people were like in front of us trying to get to us. It was wild. So I think if I could get to Mexico again, I'm only gonna amplify everything.
Wait, rewind. How did the riot start?
We won the match, and I like to talk shit, so I just got on the microphone and started talking some shit, and apparently they didn't like it too much.
Oh my God. What do you do in situations like that?
Uh, Try to survive, I guess. Look for the exit.
You're like, I can't fight this old lady who's
Oh,
throwing bottles at me.
yeah, if you could get an old lady to throw a beer bottle at you, like you're doing something right. You get some good heat.
Yeah, because in Mexico, I feel that you really do see a lot of the older women really, really get very passionate. Like, I feel like women in Mexico, from like what I've seen on TV and just like my one time watching wrestling live in Mexico, the women are the ones that get like really, really like passionate.
I mean, about these Latina women. They're kind of crazy.
Right here, right here.
So it, like with everything in life, they're very passionate with people. So with wrestling, I just kind of amp it up and see where it goes. So sometimes I might take it a little too far, and I'll get a beer bottle thrown at me by like an 80-year-old lady. So
Wow, wow. That's it's wild because you think about that and it's like this is happening to me. Like this is something that I did to trigger this response. That's pretty freaking cool because you don't, you don't get to see this very often. It's not like you're seeing riots break out at AEW or WWE, right? Like you're not seeing that. It's only going to happen more so in these other types of places, these other types of promotions. And sometimes it is kind of cool to see, the chaos, right?
right, and it could be pretty scary too. Like you never know what could happen out there. Like if someone's trying to stop you from getting somewhere and they're pulling you, and you never really know. So like your adrenaline's super high. You're just kind of looking for an exit and trying to get out of there. You're like, I did my job maybe too well, so now it's time to leave. And it could be fun once you get to the back and you're safe. It's fun, but in the moment, it's very hectic and stressful, and your adrenaline's going crazy, and you're basically in survival mode.
Next time the 80-year-old lady's gonna be waiting for you at your car, like,
Well,
Exactly, exactly. Tito, all right. So this has been such a fun interview. Seriously, I've been loving all of your stories. I got one final question for you, and that is really just to explain to everybody what your goals are for either the remainder of this year, the next 5 years for you. Ideally, what would you still like to do in that career bucket list, and even things outside of wrestling, both.
so right now, as far as like my career, I just want to keep wrestling in the world. I still want to establish my name. I would like to wrestle for some of these bigger American companies that have TV, the AEWs, the ROHs. Recently did Impact, so I would like to go back to Impact. But I need to get on some American TV. I think I do really well. So that's just what I want to do for wrestling. Continue to go back to Japan, continue to wrestle the best in the world, and then outside of wrestling, I just want to be happy.
I love that. It's simple, right?
Enjoy my life. That's it.
Oh man, that is awesome. Well, Bad Dude Tito, thank you so much for doing this interview with me and sharing these really great stories. I will see you this weekend at Resurgence in Long Beach. But for those of you guys who want to check it out, I'm going to put the links in the description box below so you guys know where to find Bad Dude Tito and also where to find New Japan Pro Wrestling and their shows and all of that good information. Until next time, I'm Denise Salcedo. This is Bad Dude Tito, and we'll catch you next time.